Welcome to 2 hours, no traffic, a New York, Philadelphia sports podcast. It is January 11th, 2023. We are your hosts. I'm Spen Harris. He's Philly Brandon. NFL's heating up, Philly Brandon.
Yes. Bit of a sleeper, last week. Giants didn't look great. We looked slightly better.
Wait, hold on. Back up. Time out. What standard are you using? Because our third stringers outplayed their standard, and you guys,
for sure,
starters played.
I'm talking if you tuned in to watch like an exciting football game, neither team really delivered that.
Fair point.
But you guys did outplay what everybody expected of you. Kenny Golladay caught a touchdown. Who would have thought?
I have a very funny story about that.
All right, hit me.
So I know we were going to start with basketball, but you know what? It feels like the time is right to start with football. We'll get into the NBA in a little bit. But yeah, I got a buddy. I haven't. Well, that's not true. I'm trying to do dry January, and the only day I've drank was January 1st, and then I had a Guinness on like the first Friday of the month. So outside of those two times, I haven't drank. But January 1st, I went to the bar to watch the NFL games with a few friends. And one of my friends, every single week since the season started, has put money on Kenny Golladay to score a touchdown. So
did he continue? Did he make it to the end of the season?
He made it to the end of the season. He was shitting on him that day at the bar, being like, I put money on him every week. He never does anything. Lo and behold, the last game of the season, when it meant absolutely nothing, Kenny Golladay scores a touchdown. My buddy hits his bet.
What was if you don't mind me asking, what was the payout?
Don't even know. I really I'm not trying to hide this from you. I have no idea.
Okay.
But it probably was a great payout because, I don't think anybody on God's green earth picked him to score.
If you go to anytime touchdown score, you got to he's not on page 1, page 2. You got to keep expanding. He's below some of the third stringers.
I feel like you got to call the sports book and be like, dude, just write down this bet and fucking cash me out when it hits. Anyway, I thought that was a great story. But
that's when I got worried because I was watching the game and I was like, we're fine, we got it. We looked horrible the whole game, and I was like, we're good. We're up 2 scores. I saw Kenny Golladay catch a touchdown, and I was like, we might not be okay. Logic is out the window. This dude's catching touchdowns. I'm a little concerned at this point.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you this. The one thing that Philly has going for them is everybody is still picking against you guys.
They always do.
No, but that's such a novelty in the sense that you're not favored to win it all. I mean, you're not the best. You guys finished number 1 in the NFC. You proved that you're the best team in the NFC on paper. Wins and losses go.
Yeah.
But everyone still thinks you guys are going to fail. And I saw I think it was Frank the Tank from Barstool. Shout out Frank Fleming. He's been on my other podcast, Fireside Nets. He listed the top 5 teams in the playoffs, and he had the Eagles number 5.
Yeah, I think some of it, obviously, I love Frank. I think I take most of Barstool for pure entertainment purposes, so that stuff doesn't really get me fired up. The ESPN disrespect is beyond me. I just don't get it. I mean, the most talented offensive and defensive team. Did we stumble down the stretch? Absolutely. But dude, look who we're missing. We're missing probably the best right tackle of his time in Lane Johnson. You're missing Avonte Maddox, a very good nickel corner in his own right. You're missing the interceptions leader at safety. And these are all just kind of getting discounted. Yeah, sure, you're banged up, but you got to still be able to. No, that's not banged up, dude. Those guys would be a formidable core on any other team. And we're supposed to be able to lose them and not skip a beat. That's impossible. Not to mention Jalen Hurts was out for 2 weeks.
You guys had a pretty competent backup in Gardner Minshew.
Did you watch that? I don't think so. Did you watch the New Orleans
I didn't
game?
watch. I'm going solely based on the fact that he's got some of the best flow in the league.
He had what was it? Against Dallas, he played his ass off. A couple of bad decisions, but he was a backup, and we were cool with it. Against New Orleans, I mean, he looked completely lost. So, I mean, that loss, the team played terribly. Gardner Minshew played worse. Coaching staff didn't have a good game plan. But, if you're in the national media and you're looking at, oh, the Eagles have stumbled down the stretch. Well, yeah, no shit. We're missing the top 3 MVP candidate and, all these other Pro Bowls just listed off. Like, of course they stumbled.
But that's great for you guys because Philadelphia, say it with me, Brandon, what do they love doing? They love being the underdog.
The underdog. We can only be an underdog.
Rocky Balboa.
We don't know how to be anything else.
The 76ers in the 0-1 championship.
Yep.
A few years ago with the Patriots, the Phillies, every time they're in the series, like last year. You guys are just the biggest underdog, and I feel like that's when you play your best. So kudos to Nick Sirianni and the guys who were hurt for not playing and losing a few games down the stretch. If you guys, win out, you beat everybody, you beat the Saints, you don't look like shit against the Giants, then we're all saying you guys are the number 1 seed and you guys are the team to beat. But no one's talking about you guys like that right now. And that brings me to my next point. It's very funny because the tone that people use to talk about the Eagles is so negative. And the tone that people use to talk about the New York Football Giants, who won 9 games this season, people act like this Giants team is incredible. And
you're supposed to beat Minnesota. I mean, don't get me wrong. The odds makers have you +3.
Right.
But it's +3 is almost a toss anymore. Like +3, you're right in that game. They're saying that yes, Minnesota is the third best team in the entire conference. You're the 3rd best team in the NFC East.
So
basically the same thing.
I'm gonna let you know a little secret, Brandon. There are 2 kinds of Giants fans. Those with unrealistic expectations and hope that because we're in the playoffs for the first time in a freaking what feels like a century, we're gonna somehow win a few games and maybe make a run to the Super Bowl. Yep. I am not one of those fans. I am one of the realistic fans.
You're always on the realistic side.
Who have we beaten this year that tells you that we're a formidable opponent? So we played the Vikings tough. Okay, great. Brandon, if you took a look at all these wins, okay, the Jaguars and the Ravens are playoff teams. Are the Titans a playoff team? No, right?
They didn't
Titans missed it. Right, okay. So those are 2 teams that are in the playoffs. No other team that we've beaten is in the playoffs. Brandon, the Giants finished in their division with 1 win against the Washington Commanders. And then they were 1-4-1.
Yep.
So I just think it's amazing the way that the media, the way that unrealistic Giants fans look at the situation. Do they have a chance against Minnesota? Sure. Because guess what?
I think they genuinely do.
They're not a great, whatever their record is. What are they like?
They're 12-4, I think.
Right. They're not.
However the math works.
They're not that great a team, and they've won a lot of games. Like the Colts game, very close games. I don't know. I think it's very funny that we look at the Giants like they're an amazing football team when in actuality they're not, and we look at the Eagles who pound for pound are probably the best team in the league, and we look at them like, they're probably going to choke. Now that brings me to my final point on this whole Giants-Eagles thing. I'm sorry. Do you want to bring something up?
Well, while we're still on it, did you happen to see the where is it? I think it was on Get Up. Here it is. Yeah, it was on Get Up this morning. Max Kellerman appeared, and he did. I know, right? He did tiers of NFL quarterbacks, right?
Okay, what tier did he put Daniel Jones in? By the way, keep in mind he's a Giants fan.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Tier 1, Pat Mahomes by himself. Cool with that. Tier 2, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. I can wrap my head around it. I'm not happy with it.
Hurts should be in there.
Tier 3, Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Daniel Jones. He's in his heart of hearts, Daniel Jones is the top 6 quarterback in the National Football League.
And I thought Kellerman was
Jalen Hurts not listed.
I thought Kellerman was a reasonable dude, but come on, dude. Don't you're
he's off
home
the
field bias.
He's trying to get back on the network, dude. He's off in the wind.
I saw a TikTok now. I saw a TikTok with Marcellus Wiley saying that him and Max Kellerman squared up once. Did you see that?
Yeah, I would have paid anything to have that footage.
I'll give Max Kellerman some credit. I didn't know he had that dog in him.
Dude's got brass ones.
The final thing I wanted, and that's wild, by the way. I think Jalen Hurts is better than Daniel Jones at his worst day.
That shouldn't even be a discussion.
I want to give Jones credit because he hasn't been bad this year. Now,
he hasn't lost you games. I'll
I
give you
can't
that. He hasn't
sit here.
lost games.
I can't sit here and tell you that he's a Pro Bowl quarterback or he's ever going to be.
No,
But he
you'd be
hasn't been
lying.
bad. And ironically, his best game of the year was a game at home against a Colts team who, let's face it, pound for pound, the Colts are probably the worst team in the league.
Yeah. Texans do still exist.
Texans and Bears finished the final two, but the Colts with an interim head coach who shouldn't have a job there, with Nick Foles, who, by the way, I know we haven't recorded in a minute, and it's nice to be back. We never talked about Kayvon Thibodeau doing the snowflake dance next to Nick Foles' dying body.
I'm sorry. Because in the
Snowman.
In the moment, if I really, really put my patience hat on here and think about it, he's looking up, he's in the moment. That I can almost wrap my head around if it was followed by an apology. Then you go to the sideline and do the sleep thing. Nick Foles is more or less incapacitated on the field, and you're doing this. Then after the game, you still have a chance to save face. You can still turn it around. Jeff Saturday criticizes him, which he should. He goes, I don't concern myself with outside opinions. That's not what we're asking you, man. It's, do you feel anything towards the fact that Nick Foles is incapacitated and you're celebrating within 8 inches of the guy? I mean, he was a Nick Foles penis away from the injury.
Yeah. No, it's I just think it would be great if you took Kayvon Thibodeau dancing, that visual, or celebrating with a snowman, and you like put it in different scenes in movies, like when Leonardo DiCaprio is spoiler alert, is drowning in the Titanic, and you just have Kayvon Thibodeau doing this, and every like sad, horrible scene of like someone dying, you just have him celebrating.
There was before we get off of this, there's something that I don't think enough people are talking about. And I was texting some of my buddies about it. It was like Jeff Saturday did the right thing after the game. Like, you got to call Thibodeau out on that. But what kind of locker room do the Colts have where Nick Foles is flattened, and then you got another guy basically just like flexing on this injury, and not one Colt cared? Like, so I'm sorry, someone's got to get thrown out. Someone's got to shove somebody. Someone's got to throw a punch. Like, you got to have some kind of enforcer take care of that. Nobody cared.
Worst move, Thibodeau's move against the Colts, or the dude on the Packers move against the Lions?
Oh, when he shoved the trainer? Optically, it's that one. I think the more like chicken shit move, in my opinion, though, is always going to be celebrating injuring somebody. The other one's bad optics, but like the other one has way more real life like implications.
Yeah, I mean, look, Thibodeau's going to have a long career in the NFL as long as he stays healthy. He's got to clean that stuff up. He can't. He's such a talented individual. Like, we've seen it with a lot of guys that make stupid decisions, right? Myles Garrett taking off his helmet a few years ago, hitting Mason Rudolph.
Odell fighting the net.
Albert Hainsworth. Remember when he stepped on that dude? Like,
yeah,
these are talented individuals that just make stupid decisions. And guess what? Hainsworth was labeled a dirty player for the rest of his career. Ndamukong Suh, who's lucky to still be in the league, he's also had those instances where he's done things where he's been labeled this way. So if you're Thibodeau, you don't want to get that label this early in your career. I did have one more question on Giants-Eagles, and it's been bothering me. I've actually been thinking about it all week.
All right.
I know you guys are a better team than us right now. I know, the future for you guys looks bright. You got the quarterback, you got the receiving core, the defense, all that. We're a little bit behind you guys as far as personnel goes. But who would you rather have as a head coach in the next 5 years? Nick Sirianni or Brian Daboll?
See, that I'm obligated to take Nick Sirianni because I have no reason not to. And it's not even because of this season, because he's been a good coach this season. But like you said, we have the best team talent-wise in the league. The reason I'll back Nick till he gives me a reason not to was last season. We're 2-6 at the time. The fans are screaming, run the ball. He's a new head coach in Philly, probably scared to death. Has the humility to go, you know what? I was wrong. I'm going to take play calling away from myself, give it to Shane Steichen, budding, head coaching star, and it turned the season around. We have lost since that moment, I think, 6 games since he said, this is bigger than me. Let me hand over play calling. So until he gives me a reason not to trust him, that's all I ever needed to see.
He still had the most like cringeworthy opening press conferences of all time, and I won't let him live that down.
We have the best record in football since that press conference. Fun fact.
Yeah, it's this isn't even a biased answer. For me, it's Dable. I mean, find me a head coach with more swagger than Brian Dable has right now. Like, I am unrealistic when it comes to the Giants performing on the field, their quarterback play, everything. I don't think they're that great right now. But dude, every Giants player wants to go to bat for this guy. Everyone wants to go to war for this guy. You saw how the third stringers played you guys pretty damn tough. What Dable says in the locker room, how he communicates with the players. Like, I was, we've been doing this podcast long enough where you've heard my rants on Pat Shurmur. You've heard my rants. We don't go all the way back to the McAdoo days. But Joe Judge, I was not a Joe Judge guy. I did not think he had the right attitude. It was all just this tough guy, hardo, I'm going to run you into the ground. Like, nobody likes the coach who makes you run sprints in practice. Yeah. Nobody. It never works. Not in this day and age. Maybe like 50 years ago that shit worked. Not now. So Dable is such a class act. And I mean, I love a hefty guy, right? Like, I'm a hefty guy. Yeah. You're not a twig.
Big boy success.
Dable is a monster, bro. And the facial hair just, I can go on and on. Like, if I couldn't get around that guy, like, he's definitely one of the best blockers on the team. So
before we get off the Giants, I know we have to talk basketball too, because we have a lot to catch up on. I have heard rumblings that the Giants are, they're going to have to extend Danny. I mean, you're out of time. So
okay, fine, Brandon, but they're going to get him receivers next year. Like, there's so many solid weapons that are unhappy with their situations. You can look at DeAndre Hopkins. You can look at
he's going to move. They already said
he's going to move. I've seen Brandon Ayuk's name floated out there. That's a pretty crowded receiving room in San Francisco.
Yeah, that's true.
I've seen what's his name? Michael Pittman Jr. on the Colts, young rising star. Do you think he really wants to stay there for all the shit happening in Indianapolis? I wouldn't. He's really good. He's played with like 5 different quarterbacks since he's been a Colt. So there are a lot of guys who are going to need jobs next year. And if you're the Giants, like, your receiving core was here this year, right? It can only, for those listening, my hand is pretty darn low. It can only go up. I love Darius Slayton. He's a 3-4 at best. Sterling Shepard gets hurt a lot. He's coming back from a serious injury, all right? I'm not saying Odell Beckham Jr. is the answer, because he's got a lot to prove too, but there are a lot of younger studs out there, some veteran elite receivers that, if you're going to extend Danny Jones, I'm fine with that as long as you get him some of those weapons.
You could build a receiving core with the guys who are unhappy. So, I mean, like I said, D-Hop is going to move. Like, they already said they're looking to get out of that contract. Another fun one is, Devontae Adams. The only reason he's in Oakland was Derek Carr. When he leaves, it would stand to reason that Devontae is going to force his way out too. And that makes for another fun thing. It's going to be interesting where teams are going to – Derek Carr is going to get a bag, and not because he's good at football. It's because people think if you get him, you now have the best odds to pry Devontae away from his current situation. If you're the Giants, that's a big swing, though. If you go for Carr in the hopes that Adams follows.
I mean, these are all options for Joe Schoen and Brian Dable. They're going to – look – like I just talked about with Brian Dable, there are guys that are going to want to play for him. You think that DeAndre Hopkins wants to stay in Arizona? They just fired Cliff Kingsbury. They don't know who they're going to hire. Like these are things you got to think about. Guys want to go to a locker room that they just
a market, dude. You got New York market.
New York market. And I think, guys would want to play with Danny Jones. I don't think that Daniel Jones is bad enough to the point where guys are like, I'm going to stay away from that situation. Like, no, he's a competent quarterback. It's like the Tua situation. Look what Tua did this year with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like, it's hard to be bad.
Top 10 receivers.
Exactly. All right. We're not going to talk about the Jets because who the hell cares? They're a dumpster fire. Zach Wilson's probably out. They're probably going to make a move for Carr or another quarterback next year. Robert Saleh keeps his job.
Jimmy G's going to the Jets. You heard it here first.
Jimmy G's another option. Do you have any 2 cents on the Jets? I mean, they're just not worth our breath. They're just so pathetic.
I know. And I talk about the Jets all the time. One of my good buddies is a game day ops guy for the Jets, so he's always
That's
filling
pretty
me in
cool.
on what's going on. So I get enough Jets talk that way. We can skip right to hoop.
All right, let's get to the main event. And I just retweeted this episode on Fireside Nets. So for everyone listening, we're about to get into some Brooklyn Nets, Philadelphia 76ers talk. Where do you want to start? Let's start with your Sixers. Let's talk about what they've been up to lately. I've been looking at Harden's stat lines. He's been playing pretty darn well. Joel Embiid's been crushing it. What has changed with you guys where you're now winners of 5 of your last 6 games played?
Yeah, so I was at the game we lost, my luck, but you can you can see that everyone's finding their niche finally. I've said on this podcast before, credit to Tobias Harris for not really having a niche. He's been everything that we don't have on a given night. You can plug and play him right there. And B coming back from the foot soreness has helped a ton. He's been an animal. Montrezl Harrell filled in really well when Embiid was out. He's a horrible defender, but he's proven to be a really good pick and roll guy, decent enough, mid range shot, and he plays so well with James Harden. I think that's part of the reason you see Harden's numbers go up is that he's always played really well with a roller, and that's not going to be Joel Embiid. I mean, he's a star in and of himself, so that's why you see those like gaudy assist numbers for Harden. You got to figure we got Tyrese Maxey back during that stretch, so we're at full strength again. They found a way to keep Melton in the starting rotation. We just go small. So they're starting to figure out how to get the most out of these guys. And we just played the Pistons last night, put up 135 points when I turned the game off. We didn't play our starters the fourth quarter.
Well, your last 2 games are against the Pistons. You've put up 123 and 147, respectively.
147. Yes, I went to bed at 135. But the starters didn't play in the fourth. So you got to figure it could have been so much worse. So they're scoring efficiently. The defense still isn't there behind Embiid. But outside of that issue, outside of backup center, which I think Harold's doing just fine, they kind of got it all ironed out for the first time in a long time, from what I can remember.
Yeah, I mean that's what the record shows, and that makes sense, right? Because a lot of these teams that struggle out the gate, and you guys are one of them. And by the way, I didn't realize this. I'm looking at the Sixers. Even before this night's stretch, you had won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have an 8-game winning streak under your belt, and then 5 of the last 6. You guys have been quietly a top 3 team in the East over the past, 3 weeks of basketball. You guys are starting to gel. Like you said, in the beginning, it's always, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, guys.
Man down. Yeah, for whatever the reason, we always start slow in the beginning, but I think that's always going to be the case as long as Daryl Morey is our GM. And I overall like Daryl Morey. I do think he manages a team like he's playing 2K, which is fun sometimes, but every offseason we turn this roster over so drastically. I mean, the starting lineup changes every summer. That we pretty much rebuilt the bench. Like if you do that every summer, you have to start from this, like you're saying, it's like weird limbo until guys find their role. So I would like to see maybe even just 2 seasons run it. They truly run it back because Doc's not great with adjustments, and we're asking to make adjustments every summer. But like you said, like we started off slow. We're now 4th in the East. Only 3.5 out of the top spot. We'll get to your Nets, who we're chasing closely also, but we're back where I think we should be. We should be a top 3 team in the East, in my opinion. When you have Joel playing the way he's playing, James Harden, he's kind of been – no one's ever perfect. He's been exactly what I want him to be. I don't want him to outshine Tyrese Maxey. That's not his role anymore. I want him to make Tyrese an all-star. I want him to make Joel an all-star. And then get his when we need him to. When Joe's taking a seat or when Tyrese is out, then take the game over, which he's kind of figured out how to do over the last, I would not say over the last probably 3 weeks. He's closed in on what we need out of him. So I have no complaints. Everything's running the way it should. Matisse Thybulle hasn't played well, but if I'm worried about the 9th guy off the bench, then my life is pretty good.
All right, so life is good as a Sixers fan.
And the Nets, we're looking up at you.
I wouldn't, but life's not so good as a Nets fan, right? Because
you're 9-1 in your last 10.
Brandon, our best player's out for a month, at least.
Yeah, but
no, there's
you
no
know,
yeah, but
dude,
Kevin
you
Durant.
know as well as I do that Kevin Durant is the closest thing to plug and play. He'll be out a month for sure. That sucks. If they can recapture what they have right now when he's back, there's nothing to worry about.
So we're gonna take a little trip down memory lane, you and me. Let's go back. Let's go back to last season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nets are rolling. Kyrie's not even playing because of the whole vaccination stuff, but KD and Harden are doing everything they can to carry this Nets team. They're winning games. They're second in the East. And then Kevin Durant gets hurts his knee because Bruce Brown falls on it. And everything changes. And all of a sudden, James Harden can't carry a squad like he used to. There's turmoil in the locker room. Harden gets traded. Kyrie comes back part-time and then full-time. He could never really get it together. And then you saw him down the stretch in that series against the Celtics. He crumbled. Then we get to the offseason. Kevin Durant, trade request. Beginning of the season, Steve Nash gets fired. Just like goes on and on and on. But everything transpired from that when Kevin Durant went down with an injury, a serious injury. So what is the difference between now? Yeah. The
difference is all of those things were bubbling under the surface, and Kevin Durant's greatness was able to hold them down. And then when he went out, you're right. They exploded. And correct me if I'm wrong. That stuff's not there right now.
And that's the difference between last year and this year. So you have a different Kyrie Irving this year. I mean, since all the bullshit in the beginning of the season, he has been locked in. He has been playing some of the best basketball I've seen since he's joined the Brooklyn Nets. Like he is back to top 3, top 4 guard in the East, Kyrie Irving. He is phenomenal. So I'm not worried about his production.
Okay.
You have guys like TJ Warren, Seth Curry, Nick Claxton's having a great season.
Does he lead the East in blocks?
He does. And he's not going to be an all-star this season because of Jared Allen, because of Joel Embiid, because you got a lot of guys that
Joel Embiid isn't starting at the moment. That's how loaded the front court in the East is right now.
But Claxton has a chance to get Defensive Player of the Year. He's been that good. So you have and he's playing much better this year than last year. All these pieces that the Nets have should allow them to still be competitive while KD's out. You want to know what the biggest question mark for the Brooklyn Nets is, Brandon?
Hit me.
He used to play for the Sixers.
Oh, well, I mean, he's an internal question mark.
He is shooting 4 to 6 shots per game. He's averaging, I don't know his average right now, but I would like to say 8 to 10 points per game, probably less than 10. He's right around that mark, probably like 6 rebounds, 7 assists a game, something like that. But he hasn't had to do much. All he's had to do is dribble up the ball and hand it to KD or hand it to Kyrie and just chill.
It's a breath of fresh air coming. I can feel it already.
Well, now
you're going to ask him to play basketball, aren't you?
Now that Kevin Durant is out, and you have to depend on other guys, he has to step up. He has to be 10% more aggressive. Will that happen? I don't know. But if he's going to be out there and getting big minutes, he's got to show up. He's got to imprint his foot on the game. And I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah. He's always going to have a mark on every game he plays in because, and I've said this all along, as much as I truly despise him as a person and an athlete, he, for my money, is the best one-on-one defender in the NBA. He just is. So the ability to have one person lock up the other team's best player will always, always help your team. Which is all you've needed. Rebounding, he sees the floor incredibly well. Between he and Kyrie, you have 2 of the best floor generals in the East as far as, advancing the ball, passing, all that. You're going to ask him to carry some of the scoring load, and that's where the disappointment really kicks in because of all the things he can do on a basketball court, and it's almost all of them. I would argue in today's NBA, he can't do the biggest one, and that's score the basketball, especially not on demand. He needs everything around him to be perfect. So he's going to need Seth Curry to be hitting from deep. He's going to need Claxton to not camp out down low because that's the only place he's going to score. He's going to need he's going to pretty much need a playbook alteration if you're going to need him to give you 12 plus, I would say.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll tell you this. Thank God that Sean Marks was able to get Seth Curry in that trade for James Harden. That was huge because Seth has been very big for the Nets down the stretch in this season. He's been clutch. I got to give Royce O'Neal credit. He's had some really clutch plays for the Nets. He's pretty much hit game-winning shots in 2 games this year. And then you just go down the roster. I mean, the Nets are a lot deeper this year than they were last year. You got guys like Patty Mills, Cam Thomas, Day'Ron Sharpe, Markieff Morris buried on that roster. I mentioned TJ Warren. He's had a really nice comeback this year. Edmund Sumner is buried. Now, we talked about the Nets, talked about the Sixers. The trade deadline's coming up in February. Do you guys make a move, and who do you make a move for?
I honestly, I'm not going to be popular with Sixers Twitter. I don't want to make a move. I don't think we need one. Every year, and I'm not going to put anybody on blast because we're all trying to do the same thing, but there's so many Sixers Philadelphia sports accounts that every year it's Sixers trade a backup center, Sixers trade to get a backup center. They're not there. Like these guys that they think are going to come in and transform the organization, they're not available at the trade deadline. We don't have the money for them. So we're not. Andre Drummond's not coming back. We paid him the vet minimum play here the first time. I think now he's on a $6 million deal. So get that out of your head. And I don't want anybody else. I don't want someone tried to talk into Mike Muscala. I don't want Mike Muscala. I don't need him. I have George Niang. I have a big who can shoot. We're good. I think it's easy. It sounds like you know what you're talking about because you know, back up big, depth pieces. Leave the roster alone. Montrezl Harrell's been fine. Paul Reed, if you need defense, put Paul in. Just for once in your life, Daryl, let the team gel a little bit. It's going to make a difference.
He doesn't want Mike Muscala. Get it through your thick skull, Daryl Morey.
Because we had Mike Muscala, dude. I hate that guy. He's like Spencer Hawes.
Hey, easy with Spencer, all right? We share the same first name. I'm with that. I get it. Honestly, it's funny. I think that you guys – I think we might be slightly deeper, but I think you guys – everyone has a role on your team, and it makes sense. You guys have 2 big men. You have a litany of guards. You have a lot of, forwards. You got Yang coming off the bench. Toby's there. For us, our depth is bad in the front court. It's Nick Claxton, and then the drop off. I like Day'Ron Sharpe. He's raw. Markieff Morris is more of should be your third big man. So if you're the Nets, you have a lot of guys that do similar things. I think I've been saying this since the start of the season, but Royce O'Neal, Joe Harris, Yuta Watanabe, I forgot to mention him before, TJ Warren, all these guys their job is really to score and hit 3-pointers. Now, here's where it gets, a little bit tough for me. Joe Harris is the odd man out. It's not even close. And I'll tell you why. Every one of those guys I mentioned, Seth Curry, throw him in the mix, they all do something other than just score. Royce O'Neal is in the right place at the right time, energy, hustle guy. Yeah, he'll go cold from 3, whatever, you'll deal with it. Yuta Watanabe is a spark plug, an energy guy, gets rebounds, makes, tough plays, can dunk on you if he's around. He can throw it down. Seth Curry can create off the dribble. And TJ Warren's just a bucket walking. Joe Harris is a catch and shoot shooter who, if he does anything else, like hit a layup or defend somebody well, you're shocked. He is a guy that you should move, and you should try to get, this is probably unrealistic because of their asking price, but you should get a John Collins-like player. If it's not John Collins, just get a stretch 4. You know what? Bring me Mike Muscala. I don't care. He would make sense in Brooklyn.
Yeah, but Mike Muscala for Joe Harris. You gotta sweeten that deal somehow.
I'm just saying the Nets need to get someone, because here's the problem. If Claxton gets in foul trouble or if he gets hurt at all, they're screwed. They are screwed because you don't want to depend on Ben Simmons as your center. You just don't.
No.
You need at least one other guy. I'm sure there are guys on bad teams like the Pistons, like the Thunder, like the Hornets, that you can sway away from their situation, make a trade, give them Joe Harris, and make them eat whatever he's got left on his big contract. But that is the only deal for me.
For Joe Harris.
Say that again?
What a fall from grace for Joe Harris.
And it's not his fault, dude, because if he's starting and he's playing 20, 25 minutes a game and he's giving you Kevin Huerter or Max Strus type performances, then that's fine. But he's coming off the bench right now. He's playing 10 minutes a game. He's getting 2 or 3 looks a night. It just doesn't make sense to have him on the roster at this point. So
Yeah, you need more for that.
yeah, that's my my Joe Harris needs to be traded rant. And I love Joe.
What
I mean,
about
he's literally the longest tenured net.
okay? So I'm just playing around with like some guys who might be out there,
Okay.
in the front court. So I don't necessarily. Some of these are fun. So like Jakob Pertl.
Are you asking like would I trade for these guys?
Well, so Joe Harris is the piece. Worth it or not worth it? So
Yes,
Jakob
worth
Pertl,
it.
he's averaging 12 and 9 this season. In San
Easy.
Antonio.
If I can have him as my backup 5, worth it.
Okay. What about slightly going a little bit smaller? Probably have to play the 4, Jay Crowder.
Oof. See, I don't need Jay Crowder because you have Royce O'Neal, you have Yuta Watanabe. You add one more wing. I mean, what does it really do to your like? And also, him and KD kind of now they don't play the same position because KD's more of a 4 now. But like, no, it crowds your backcourt a little bit more, in my opinion.
Okay, and then the only other one I think you could realistically get your hands on is maybe Mo Bamba.
Ooh, see, now you're talking my language. If we can get our hands on Mo Bamba, he does a lot of things that Claxton doesn't do. He can hit the 3 if he wants.
Yeah.
That's really it. That's really the only thing that he does that Claxton doesn't do. But I like Mo Bamba's game. He's been linked to Nets Twitter. I think that would be a decent get.
And Orlando's in perpetual rebuild mode, so they're always just taking on. I mean, the whole team's young, so a veteran would be worth something to them.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a fun one, I think. It'd be a problem for me. I wouldn't want to have to. For what it's worth, when Joel's played Mo Bamba, he has schooled him, but that's everybody. Yeah. I would rather not. I'd rather deal with get Claxton in foul trouble, which Embiid's probably the best in the league at doing, and then deal with the scrubs or whatever after him. Having to go to Mo Bamba after you chase Nick Claxton out of the game would be tough on opposing teams.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. I got nothing left. I know we play you guys in a few weeks on the 25th of January. The game is in Philadelphia. It's probably going to be a Kevin Durant-less game. I'm looking forward to it, though. We haven't played since your backups beat us in November. And that was one of the only two. It was that loss and the Indiana loss. And then after that, we got going. We won 4 straight, lost to Boston, and then won, I think, 13 straight. So it'll be a nice little chance at redemption. It always gets a little bit more hyped up when KD and Embiid match up, and then you obviously got Harden facing the Nets, Simmons facing the Sixers. A lot to look for.
Have we ever gotten a fair shot at each other? We're always playing each other down a man. I don't think we played full strength.
So. Maybe. You're probably right. I don't know the answer to that. But yeah, it'll be a game though. Like if we win, you'll hate it because we won without Kevin Durant. But that's the same way that we hated how we lost to you without anybody. But yeah, that's all I got, Brandon. Do we have anything else?
That's all I got for this week here on 2 Hours No Traffic, brought to you as always by the good people at Sideline Sports. We're going to do a lot better at getting back on the weekly. Spence and I's calendars are both a little bit more opened up, so we will see you all next week for another edition, 2 Hours No Traffic. Peace.
Thank you for listening.